Hello and welcome to Dad and Swebb Talk Sports. I'm Swebb.
And I'm Dad.
And we are the dad and daughter duo talking about all of our favorite sports moments from the week. Dad, how's it going?
It's going pretty well, Swebb. A little chilly, but it's going well.
Now, I hear that it's snowing, or it snowed on Tuesday as we're recording in South Carolina. It snowed all the way down to Florida.
It certainly did. Last night, I hear something on the window. I said, boy, that sounds familiar. Opened the front door. It was snow and sleet coming down. I've heard that sound.
Now, you moved down south. You left New York 3 weeks ago. Before today, Tuesday, it hadn't snowed in South Carolina in years. I don't know when the last time it was that it snowed down south. Do you think it's a coincidence that now that you're living there, it's snowing? Did you bring that with you?
I think I might have, Swebb. The second or third day I was down here, I had a pair of shorts on. I went to the store and I had a pair of shorts on. Okay, so I don't know what's going on.
Well, I hope you're staying bundled up. I think it's like 20-something degrees down there. If it makes you feel any better, it's about 15 degrees in New York. Not too different. We do not have snow, but it's not fun commuting to work in the morning.
I remember those days. It's going to be about 45 tomorrow.
Must be nice.
And yeah, but I don't have a snow shovel. I don't have any boots because I threw those out. So I don't know what's going to happen, Swebb.
So I guess you can't go for your daily walk.
Daily walk?
Or was it a jog?
No, I can't. See, look what went and happened, Swebb. Now I can't even go and exercise now.
Now, you were in New York this past weekend,
yes.
And all of a sudden you come back down south and it's snowing. So, and it was snowing in New York for part of the time that you were here.
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Swebb. So Saturday, I'm at your place, and you welcome me. You open the door and welcome me with some wise guy.
Moves 3 weeks ago, complains constantly about New York, and plans a visit 3 weeks later. Can't get enough.
I said, let's go out and get something to eat. So she said, oh, I know this great diner just around the corner. Now, growing up in the Bronx, around the corner is, that's around the corner. You, all of a sudden, were walking 2 blocks. I said, wait, I thought you said it was around the corner. Yeah, it's around that corner, another block up, and then around that corner. So we go up another 2 blocks. We go around the corner, and we go down another 2 blocks. And she said, and then we go around another corner, and there's the rest of the diner. Now, I must say,
to give everyone perspective, it was less than a quarter of a mile. So it was less than a lap on a track.
Okay.
2 blocks up, 3 blocks east.
Now, I must say, once we got to that diner, I loved the price. The place was packed, and I loved the prices in that place. So I can't complain about that. Nice and cheap, Swebb.
Stick with me, Dad.
And then you walk me around another 3 blocks to get back to your apartment. I look at my phone and how far I walked. I walked over a mile, Swebb, to get a hamburger. Over a mile to get a $13 hamburger.
Let me see how far I've walked today, just to and from the subway to get to work as part of my daily commute. And I didn't walk to the bus like I normally do. So today it's saying that I've walked 1.44 miles. I usually walk to the bus. When it's warmer than 35 degrees, I usually go for a run. So I'm averaging somewhere in the 5 to 6 mile range. Last night I went to the ballet, so I had to walk a little bit further from the subway, and I had to walk to a different subway to even get up to the theater. And I did about 3 miles without even working out. You should try it.
Yeah,
when the snow clears up, when that snow melts, you should get outside and you should walk.
You went to a ballet last night?
I did. I missed the Knicks game. I missed the UNC game, but we will get into that. Do
Okay.
you want to finish telling people about your trip to New York?
Yeah. So now, Sunday afternoon, I head to the Islip Airport for like a 3:50 flight. I get over there nice and early. Plane comes in about an hour and a half before we're set to go out. And the lady at the desk said, the flight's going to be delayed. I said, whoa, the plane's here. It's been here. There's a organizational hold on your flight. Organizational hold? Now I have a flight that's going to go to Baltimore, Washington Airport. I have a connecting to take me to Charleston. So, long story short, another flight comes in from Miami and people get off to go on my flight. So that's what they were holding up the flight for. It wasn't for any other reason. Okay. By the time we get to Charleston, my flight, I missed the connecting flight.
Your flight to Baltimore. By the
I
time you
mean,
get to Baltimore.
when I get to Baltimore, my flight is canceled to Charleston. I missed the flight, the connecting flight. I'm done for the night. And the lady says, we're sorry we couldn't do anything. I'm saying to myself, you held this flight up for over an hour and a half. You can't do anything. You already did everything you had to do. Well, we rebooked you for tomorrow morning, Monday morning at 9:50 a.m. Great. And we can't get a hotel for you, but if you want to get a hotel, we'll give you a list of hotels. I said, that's it. And by the way, by that time it was snowing in Baltimore. I said, can I sleep in the airport? Yes. So I slept in the airport, Swebb. And you know how difficult it is for me to sleep in a chair. I have to be lying down to get a good night's sleep. Have you ever seen me sleep in a chair, Swebb?
Yeah, I think everyone has seen you sleep in a chair. That's how we initially started creating content here, is me taking video of you sleeping in chairs at various lively events.
Well, the airport
You don't
was
remember because you were asleep.
the airport was outside of some policemen walking around and security guards. There was nobody. I'm telling you, it's lonely in those airports.
I don't understand why they couldn't pay for a hotel. They usually can give you a voucher, especially when it's their fault. But what did you learn from this?
What did I learn?
Yes. There's always a lesson to be learned.
What do you mean?
Take direct flights, especially when the flight is only an hour and a half anyway. Take direct flights. And don't fly out on the night of a snowstorm, because it did snow on the night you were flying out.
Well, I wasn't planning that when I booked this weeks ago. That's number one. And number two, Swebb, unfortunately, Southwest, that's the deal they have. That's
Okay.
and usually when you take these connecting flights, it's a little cheaper. You save a few bucks, Swebb.
But you had to sleep in the airport.
You
get what you pay for.
At least I didn't pay for a hotel room, Swebb.
You get what you pay for.
And a Uber or a taxi ride from the hotel to the what do you call it?
You can actually, there are laws now where you can actually, I know they do it on Delta. If they ever cancel a flight, you can submit for a reimbursement, because I've had a few flights canceled and I had to pay for transportation to get to the airport. I might have gotten myself a snack while I was waiting before they canceled my flight. And you can submit all your receipts and they will send you a check or put it back into your account if you link a bank account. I just have them send me a check.
Really? Well,
So,
on the bright,
I don't know if Southwest does that, but something to keep in mind moving forward.
On the bright side, because I was in the airport all night, I saw and I was sitting right next to one of the restaurants. I saw it open up at 5 a.m. and they got everything prepared. And at 6, when they let people in, I was one of the first people inside the restaurant so I could have breakfast.
I'm sure that was an amazing meal. I'm sure Chick-fil-A.
It wasn't Chick-fil-A, no.
Yes.
This was a sit-down restaurant.
Okay.
Because I'm not a big fast food guy.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you're back down south and enjoying the snow. Some big news came out today on Tuesday as we record. It's Tuesday night. the Jets have themselves a new head coach.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
The
We
Jets,
discussed this to death last week,
we
and
did. So, to give everyone a little bit of a heads up if you haven't seen the news, the Jets announced that Aaron Glenn, former Lions defensive coordinator, is the new head coach of the Jets, signing him to a 5-year deal. Now, he was a first round pick of the Jets back in 1994. He was the number 12 pick, I believe, as a cornerback out of Texas A&M. So he has played with the Jets for a number of seasons. He was also in 2 Pro Bowls. He has been a coach in multiple teams. Also spent a stint with the Jets from 2012 to 2013 as a personnel scout. But most recently was the defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, taking them from the worst defense in the league to the number 7 defense in the league. Now, we have talked about a lot of things. We've talked about the fact that you don't necessarily want to hire a coach before you hire the general manager. What we haven't talked about is the fact that the Washington Commanders beat the Detroit Lions this past weekend 45-31. So not a good defensive showing out of the Detroit Lions after they had a week off to prepare for that game because they had a first round bye. So he's been getting glowing remarks from the likes of Bill Parcells and other coaches and players in the league, across the league. It seems like a good hire in theory, but I have my reservations.
well, you know what the Jets did, and they did it the last few times. They hired coaches and general managers. They hired the coach before they hired the general manager, who's going to be his boss. It's like having a restaurant and you hire the waiter before you hire the chef.
We've talked about this. Now, the from what I've read, the only name that we know that has had a second interview as one of the GM candidates is Lance Newmark, who is a Lions executive. So there has been some overlap between Aaron Glenn and Lance Newmark. So there is the potential that maybe he ends up getting the GM job, and that's part of the equation here. But yes, we are hiring all of the support staff before we hire the boss, and that is concerning. So I'm hopeful, but when you have a season like the Jets had, they were 5-12. Their last playoff appearance was in 2010. They have the number 7 pick in this year's draft. They have 8 picks total in the draft. They only have $25 million worth of cap space, so there's a lot of things that need to happen. They don't have a quarterback. We
Oh,
don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. He might decide to retire, but as of now, the quarterback position is not set in stone. So here we go.
well, let's
This
look on
is
the
a song
right.
that never ends.
It's hard to. You said he was drafted in 1994.
Yes.
It's hard to believe 31 years. It seems like to me, it seems like yesterday when I remember him when he played at Texas A&M, when he got drafted. He was two-time Pro Bowl player. He was an excellent player for the Jets. He appears to be, from what I understand, a very good leader. Forget about the X's and O's. I know he was a defensive coordinator with Detroit, but they need a leader. They need a man in charge that's going to inspire, motivate, encourage these players and discipline these players when they need to be disciplined. That's what they need. Now, he has to go out and hire a good defensive coordinator and a good offensive coordinator with experience, know how to put together game plans and know how to hire positional coaches. They're going to be coaching these players and developing these players. His job is to be like the CEO of the organization, of the team, and be a leader and a motivator. He doesn't have to be a defensive coordinator anymore, but he has to hire a real good one and has to hire a real good offensive coordinator. If they see, this is what they've been missing, this whole organizational flow chart, the way it's supposed to go. If they can put that together now, they have and bring in some good talent, which they already have some decent talent, but bring in some more, they'll be in good shape.
Well, the flow chart is already off kilter because there's no GM at the top of that food pyramid. But he's got to go out and turn water into wine. So I'm going to pray that he can feed the masses with 2 loaves of bread and a few fish because he's got to be able to work some miracles here with some of the challenges that seem to present themselves. But hey, 5-12. I'm hopeful that we'll have a few more wins than 5 this upcoming season. I no longer, when you set your bar low, have you ever played limbo, Dad? Have you ever done the limbo?
No.
Yeah, you're not that limber. As the game goes on, you have to get real low. You have to do your back bends. Now I used to do high jump, so I actually had a flexible. I could do a little. I could get pretty low for a tall girl. My bar is low. It's not one that I can limbo under. Maybe my 2-year-old niece can limbo under it, but as long as I set the bar pretty much on the floor, then I can't be disappointed.
By the way, your 2-year-old niece, today was the first day she saw snow. It was like Christmas morning for them over there.
It
Never
sure
saw
was.
never saw snow before in her life.
She can move up here, okay? It's nice when it's only a few inches and you can have some good time and don't have to go to school for a day, and someone else gets to shovel it.
Yeah,
But
that's nice.
all right, so the Jets. What are your expectations of what they can do here, or do you just want to speak things into existence, get out
Well,
all your hopes and dreams and wishes?
well, let's do a little bit of both. First of all, you said they don't have a quarterback. They do have a quarterback. Rodgers was pretty good. Listen, if they don't keep him, they take roughly a $50 million cap hit. Okay, it would just demand. And when you got a brand new coach, a young coach, first time head coach, you want to give him the best opportunity to have some success. I'm not talking about Super Bowl. I might not even be talking about playoffs, but you want him to have a decent team where he's at least a 500 club, 8-9, 9-8, at least, so the fans have some hope and the media and the fans don't start jumping all over. If they lose their first 3-4 games, it, you know what goes on in New York. The media and the fans will
I
be all
stopped
over this.
watching.
The media and the fans will be all over him. You want him to have a chance to have some success. Okay, they need to bring Aaron Rodgers back. They need to bring
Well,
them.
he has to want to come back
Well, they
too.
need to talk him into coming back.
He is 41 years old.
I know, but right, I know.
You see the way it took you to walk around the corner and then around the corner, around the corner. Imagine playing football.
I didn't have those problems when I was 41 though.
I wish I could have seen that. I was about 10,
No,
and I don't remember you being that active.
you were 10 when I was 41.
Yes.
Oh. Oh, I wasn't that active when I was that age. I was out there playing ball with your brother.
Prove it.
Oh,
Define playing ball.
I was throwing him batting practice. I was rebounding for him in the driveway when he was shooting. What are you kidding me?
You should come back. Have yourself stage a comeback
I
here.
was coaching. I was screaming at
What were you
him.
running up and down the sidelines? That's not really that active. You know how to yap. That doesn't take much physical capability.
You know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I used to be out there in the hot sun in the summer throwing him batting practice for 2
You
hours.
should come out of retirement.
I'm not in retirement, Swebb.
I believe it. I believe in you that you can throw batting practice again.
I'll start throwing to your nephew in about a month.
Okay.
He asked me to teach him how to play baseball. I said, no
Make
problem.
sure you can
My specialty.
make sure you warm up.
I'll be warm.
Okay, so the Jets, hey, we want to make sure that they're in a position to succeed. We have to see what Aaron Rodgers wants to do. Hopefully, he wants to come back. If I'm 41 and I've had the career that Aaron Rodgers has had, I'm not sure that I want to sign up for this experiment. But he loves the game. Maybe he comes back. and hopefully he does. I think that would still be better than nothing, and or better than a quarterback that hasn't had any experience after
or a,
being hurt for the season.
or better than one of these journeyman quarterbacks that bounce around from team to team as second and third string
Right.
quarterbacks. You want somebody that can go out there and perform for you, and they got to build up that offensive line a little more. It improved a lot this year, but it has to get better.
And
Build
the
up.
run game has to get better.
Well, yeah, well, that's going to enable the run game to get better. And then they have to beef up that defensive line that took a big step back and that secondary that took a big step back. If they can do that, they'll be in good shape. They have three good running backs. They might have to trade one to get some help in some of these other positions.
Sounds like a tall mountain to climb, but you know what? I'm keeping hope alive. Okay, let's talk about the Knicks. Now, the Knicks are coming off 2 wins in back to back games Monday night versus Atlanta, and then last night, Tuesday night, at Brooklyn. So the Knicks, unfortunately, on Friday they lost in an ugly game to the Minnesota Timberwolves at home. That was without Karl Anthony Towns, but the past 2 games have been really strong from the Knicks.
Yeah, they play pretty good or good enough to win and beat almost every team when Towns and Brunson are in the lineup. When they're not, when one of them is missing, especially Towns, or either one of them, they got big problems because they're very reliant on both of them scoring in the 20s or in the 30s.
They're too reliant on
They're
them.
too reliant,
So
yeah.
that's the challenge, is who else can be that third scorer. Mikal Bridges obviously has shown that he can usually be that guy, but he's been a little bit inconsistent. And when Karl Anthony Towns, you hope that he's in every game, but things happen, knickknacks. The way Tibbs is playing these guys 40 minutes a game, there are bound to be some injuries from time to time and guys that need to rest a little bit. I would like to see some consistency out of him. I'd like to see guys be able to step up. You're not going to get that production from a Precious Achua or a Jericho Sims because that's not their game. That's okay. But your starters you need to have some legitimate offensive options. And the Knicks have been too reliant on Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson of late.
I'll say. Because yeah, everybody has to remember Towns and Brunson are consistent big scorers every game. Bridges scores well most games, but he can be a little up and down. OG isn't really a scorer, but some games when he scores big, the Knicks, there's no problems beating anybody. And Hart's not a big scorer, but when he scores big and rebounds well, that's when everything's flowing and they can beat anyone, except maybe Oklahoma City.
So yeah, a lot of things have to fall into place. Some guys
Everything
have
has to fall into place for them to beat them.
And some guys have to be better than they need to be their best version of themselves and of their games in some of those tough matchups. So this week, Saturday, they'll play against Sacramento and then Monday against Memphis. Dad, we knew that this was going to be a challenging month, obviously, January, with a lot of competitive teams and the schedule the way that it is. What are you hoping to see? What do you think is going to happen over this next week of games for the Knicks?
They just have to keep playing well. They just have to keep playing well. Okay, and hope that Towns doesn't go down with another injury. He does have a thumb issue that he's kind of playing through, and just has to hope it doesn't get worse and he gets a little better.
Now, speaking of not playing well, let's talk about the UNC Tar Heels, shall we? College basketball. Now, Saturday, you were in my apartment. You came in, we had lunch, we did a few laps around the block, and then we watched the UNC basketball game. They played against Stanford, and they ended up losing that game in a buzzer beater. So they lost 72-71 on Saturday. Then Tuesday, as I mentioned, I was at the ballet, so I didn't watch the game, but they lost at Wake Forest 67-66. So 2 back-to-back losses by a total of 2 points. Dad, what's going on with UNC?
They're not very good, Swim.
Ah,
They're not very good. What am I going to tell you? Hey, I'm driving 4 hours up to Chapel Hill on Saturday, Friday night, and then Saturday, and going to the game on Saturday afternoon against Boston College,
that
uh,
should be a win, but you never know.
and
No
meeting
guarantees with this team.
and meeting up with some of our friends from New York, and we're going to go to the game at Carolina. And
It's
Boston College is not a good team. So if they don't beat Boston College on Saturday, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I hope for your sake that they win. As we were talking about the Knicks, everything has to fall into place for them to be really competitive. That's like times 100 with UNC. Everything has to fall into place. I thought that on Saturday against Stanford, that the big men actually played well. The Jalen's played well. Um, the challenge is everything has to line up exactly right, and you can't play games living on the edge. Keeping When you have a lead, you got to continue to open up that gap. And Carolina has been living on the edge all season.
Yeah, because they're not that deep. They don't have that much talent, and the guys they do have, they're too dependent on a few guys. They're so dependent on Ian Jackson, a freshman,
And he
and,
hasn't been
and
that
the last two
impressive these past
games,
two
the
games.
last two games he didn't score big. He didn't score big the last two games. That's been the difference. They lose each game by 1 point. You can't. You shouldn't have to depend on a freshman.
So, what else are you looking forward to this upcoming week?
Looking forward to going up to Chapel Hill. I haven't been in the Dean Dome for a few years, and that's it.
All right. I mentioned I already got some ballet got out of my system. This upcoming week is just we'll watch the football, the NFL conference championships, but it's just a weekend where I'm hoping that it's not too cold to go outside. Otherwise, I'm going to stay right here on this couch in sweats and I'm not going anywhere.
Well, watch the Carolina game. You'll be able to spot me in the upper deck.
So you're not going to the game with me. So you're all the way in the upper deck, huh?
Hey, those tickets are expensive up there.
They shouldn't be this year.
Well, oh
Um,
man,
and before we close things out, shout out to CC Sabathia, Ichiro, Billy Wagner, I believe, also being named to the MLB Hall of Fame.
mm-hmm.
CC Sabathia was a huge free agent signing for the Yankees in the uh, early 2000s.
2009.
Sorry, there's a siren driving by, which will undoubtedly be on the recording. It's good to know that there's something happening out there. Someone's patrolling something. But he said he's going to go into the Hall of Fame wearing a Yankee cap. So he said New York is his home. It will always be his home. He won the World Series, obviously, in 2009 with the club and continues to go to games and is just a fixture in New York.
Yep.
A talented left-handed pitcher.
Yep. He lives in New Jersey. He's at a lot of Nick and Net games. His son is a baseball player on Georgia
Vanderbilt.
Tech. No,
Oh,
Georgia
Georgia
Tech.
Tech. Oh, you're right. Georgia Tech.
Yeah. Um, and when he was at Bergen Catholic in New Jersey, he was one of the best players in the country that year, and either the first or second best player in the state of New Jersey when he was a senior. And he'd been on Georgia Tech for 2 years. So, and he's at Yankee Stadium all the time, and he was a very respected Yankee and a great pitcher. And he was
And
on the last World Series winning team,
yes. So,
2009.
well, very well deserved. Ichiro, obviously, extremely well deserved. He is
Incredible player. Incredible.
just pretty much a guaranteed hit every single time he came up to bat. So
And a great outfielder, great base runner, great arm. Just an
Yep.
incredible player.
So Ed, hopefully, this bodes well for the Yankees. We get some Hall of Fame juju uh, going into this season. I feel good about the way the team looks. My bar is a little bit higher for the Yankees than it is for the Jets, so we're just going to stay positive.
I hope so.
Um,
Oh, and Billy Wagner was a great relief pitcher for Houston and for the Mets.
yes, he
Tremendous relief
was.
pitcher.
Great closer for Houston for many
Yep.
years.
Yep.
So, before we close things out, do you want to leave us with a tip of the week?
Yes. Whenever, and Swebb has done this to me a number of times now, and I don't know why I keep believing her. She tells me, we're just going, it's just down the street. It's just around the corner. And she'll have you walking a half a mile to a mile to get where you want to go. Oh, we're just another block, just another block. It's just down, it's just over there. It's just over there. Don't believe her. She lies like a rug. Do not.
First of all, it was a quarter of a mile.
Okay.
You also
That's
walked other places during that time frame. So when you
that's
saw the
not
mile on your
around the corner, Swebb. Around the corner was Jerry's Pizza in the Bronx. It was around the corner. The Melba movie theater was around the corner. The Kosher Deli was around the corner. Izzy's Deli was just around the corner. That's around the corner, Swebb.
you're kind of old. Your memory is going. So maybe you don't remember the
No, I don't
exact
think I remember.
distances.
No, I gave you all eating establishments. And I told you about the movie theater because the hot dogs were only a quarter.
That's how old you are. The hot dogs were a quarter. I don't even know what a quarter is anymore.
And the pizza was 15 cents a slice when I was in elementary school at Jerry's Pizza.
Must be
Great
nice.
pizza. Great. And Italian ice was like 10 cents. If you wanted a larger one, it was 25 cents.
Well, my tip is take direct flights whenever you can. Otherwise, you'll end up sleeping in random airports, and that's your own self-inflicted pain at that point. So, that concludes this week's episode of Dad and Swebb Talk Sports. Be sure to follow us at Dad and Swebb on Instagram and X. Subscribe on YouTube and Rumble, and share this episode with a friend. We will see you next week.
So long.
Thank you for tuning in to Dad and Swebb Talk Sports, the show where we cover all of our favorite sports moments from the past week. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and Rumble, and follow us at Dad and Swebb on Instagram and X. See you next week.